If you're like most people, copying on the Nike sneakers app can be quite frustrating.
We're here to give you guys an edge on how Nike drops their sneakers and offer some quick tips to increase your chances of copying.
She say I'm a rock star, seeing me shine. I don't got a lockjaw, speaking my mind. Yeah, shawty is a good girl.
Now there are a total of 8 different ways Nike releases sneakers, and today we're going to go through every single one of them, starting off with Flow. So Flow is Nike's code name for their first come, first serve release format. Basically all that means is whenever the drop time comes, whoever enters into the quickest has the best chances of copying the sneakers. Now Nike rarely ever uses this drop type because everyone usually complains about taking L's, and it's also kind of hard to prevent sneaker bots from winning.
Moving on to the next drop type, we have the codename Leo. So these drops are one of the more popular release types that Nike uses. A Leo drop is essentially a mini raffle, so once the release time hits, you'll be given a small window to enter. You usually get around 2 minutes to enter into the drawing before Nike starts selecting winners. So once you have successfully entered, it's then randomized and kind of all up to chance on whether you cop from that point. I put quotes around the word randomized because there are some ways that you can enter to kind of increase your chances, but we'll go over that later on in the video.
The next type of drop is codenamed Dan. So these are another raffle type drop, but instead of the entry window time just being 2 minutes long, you are given anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes to enter. You usually know that it's a Dan type of release because there is a timer above the shoe stating how long you have to enter before the raffle closes. Now most of the time you will be given about 10 minutes to enter, and if you do use the sneakers app often, this should sound pretty familiar, but for extremely hype releases like a Travis Scott collab or something along those lines, Nike increases the entry window up to 30 minutes. But overall, it follows the same pattern as the Leo release, where once you're entered into the draw, your entry will be randomly chosen to purchase the shoe.
The next release type is what Nike calls exclusive access. So this is where before the scheduled release, Nike will drop a limited amount of sneakers to certain sneaker app users, granting them access to purchase the shoe before the release date. So these type of drops usually happen around 12 p.m. Eastern time, and if you do get access, you'll be notified within the sneakers app. But once notified, act fast because the stock is still going to be limited, and I have seen firsthand people missing out on their exclusive access just because they were a little bit too slow. So I just wanted to reiterate that even though you are granted early access to a pair, if that does happen, that doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have the shoe reserved and can just kind of check out whenever, because you'll still want to move quickly, because if the size you want sells out or the shoe sells out altogether, I mean, that's going to happen very fast.
At this point, you must be wondering, how can we know what type of sneaker release is happening before the actual release? Well, that's where Cop, our partner and sponsor of this video, can help a little bit more. So Cop is a world-class sneaker group focusing on community over profit by providing their members with all the information they need on upcoming release info and more. Their platinum members have access to sneaker monitors, where before the release they are given exactly what type of release is expected. Other features include raffle notifications, in-depth site lists, stock numbers, and the list goes on and on. If you are interested in diving into the world of sneakers, you can join Cop for free by visiting copsneakergroup.com.
Moving on to the next type of release, we have what Nike calls a sneakers pass. So basically all that means is Nike will give out access to select users, but in order to purchase, you will need to be able to pick up the shoes from a retailer within your range. So this typically happens in waves, kind of starting on the West Coast side of the United States and gradually allowing access by time zone throughout the entire US. So the thing with this type of release is, one, you have to live near a Nike store because, like I just said, you will need to be able to pick them up. And then two, once you're given access to the sneakers pass, you know, like any other release type, you have to be quick because it is first come, first serve to reserve a pair on there. So some sneakers passes can even be so specific where you need to be in a certain location of like a landmark or something to gain access. So be on the lookout for those and just make sure that you have your Bluetooth enabled.
Number 6 out of the 8 types of drops is the sneakers reserve. Now, similar to the sneakers pass, Nike will drop what they call a sneaker reserve. So this happens every so often, but this is less of a drop and more of a restock, where Nike kind of gives you a second chance at copying some shoes that have previous release that you've either just missed out on or have already taken an L. So this type of release happens randomly, but when Nike does a reserve, it kind of happens around the same time, around 12 p.m. Eastern time, and it will pop up on the sneakers app homepage saying reserve. From there, Nike will give you a bunch of previous release sneakers, at which point you're just gonna have to scramble to enter into whatever sneakers you want. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the time frame is before selecting winners, but I think they give you about 2 minutes to enter into as many as possible sneakers before Nike starts rolling out W's. So when you definitely see a sneakers reserve pop up on your feed, act fast.
So the second to last drop type is the sneakers cam, which is also the rarest. So the sneaker cam is similar to both the pass and the reserve releases, where the release will pop up on the sneakers homepage. But instead of being in a certain location, you have to scan a photo of something before getting access to check out a pair of shoes. So this release type hasn't happened in a while, but just make sure you have given the sneakers app access to your camera, so if and when it happens, you'll be prepared.
Last but not least, you have the Nike app drops or restocks. So this type of release happens outside the sneakers app and instead takes place within the Nike app itself. So this is for either new releases or restocks of previous models, similar to the sneakers reserve. Now, to know when they're actually going to happen can be a little harder to find or kind of just keep track of. So what you're going to have to do is go to the search tab before the release and select the upcoming drops option. From there, once the drop time hits, it is pretty similar to the Leo releases, where you have a 2-minute window to enter into your size before Nike starts picking winners. Now, sometimes Nike also does give access to these types of releases on their website, but most of the time drops and restocks are limited to the Nike app. So just to be certain, you are always ready to enter into the app first before trying to enter on the website.
So those are all the different types of Nike releases that we've seen, but before we go, we wanted to leave you with some quick tips and tricks to give you that extra edge.
So tip number 1 is to make sure that you've given all the required permissions for Bluetooth and camera for the sneakers app.
Tip number 2 is to set up and enable the Face ID or the fingerprint settings within the app so you don't have to type out your password as often before entering into the release, which is just going to cut down on the time it takes to enter.
And lastly, but most importantly, is making sure that you're actively using this sneakers app. We recommend that you go onto the app at least once a day and watch some of the stuff that Nike posts on the Explore page.
Becoming an active user will increase your chances of not only getting more exclusive access to drops, but also just getting W's for any type of release.
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you've gotten some value, definitely leave a like.
And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comments. But until next episode.
She say I'm a rock star, seeing me shine.